Get Valiant, Get Valiant, number 207, I think. What's happening?
The big 207. How you doing, man? It's Friday night, man.
It's Friday night. The feeling's right, and the party's here on the west side. So, we're ready to rock and roll. For all of those who may be in another time zone, sorry for it being so late. But for those, when this is just starting to be the witching hour, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, little late, little different for us. We just really wanted to do the episode.
Right.
So it was like, let's just do it. And so
it's been a while. Life's been happening. We've been busy, and that kind of life kind of can throw wrenches in the way of comic book reading and everything sometimes. So
yeah,
all good things though. All good things.
All good. Nice. I don't recall any news stuff. Unless you
news stuff. Well, there is the badass Bloodshot merch stuff. Go get that shot glass with the bullet through it if it survived shipping. But those are damn cool. So those things are really cool. They've kind of announced a little bit of the art on the covers and whatnot. Bloodshot Unleashed looks pretty damn cool. So.
Yeah, we won't talk about it too much yet, but I did get an ash can, and I really like it. I would say that it's this is just my opinion. I think it's as strong a first issue of Bloodshot as maybe like Bloodshot Salvation was like the last time I think there's one like this good.
Nice.
It's that's kind of like a not saying anything though. I feel like for the most part, I've said it before, Valiant does really well on their first issues. I don't know what editorial tells their writing staff when it comes to these books, but they usually have like a really, really good first issue. If it doesn't hook you, it's not going to hook you. Yeah. But I thought like this one was really good. Maybe, the first issue of Rising Spirit wasn't great. That was about it, So, they've all been pretty good, like first issues for Bloodshot.
I do think that a lot of these storytellers are doing a good job of setting the field. We could talk more in some of these books that we got coming up. But yeah, getting the setting done, getting it ready. So pumped up for some Bloodshot. It's good to have Bloodshot back. And John Davis Hunt doing art on Bloodshot. You cannot go wrong.
Yeah,
with that.
Like I think like some of the covers he's doing they're cool. I like what they're doing, but then like it's weird because like I'll look at his covers and I'm like, yeah, that's a cool cover, but I'm way more interested in his interiors.
Agreed.
They look great. So getting to see them uncolored has been kind of a nice change of pace. I don't think I have any other black and white stuff that he's done.
I recall the Shadow Man when Shadow Man was getting launched, seeing a lot of his black and gray when Shadow Man got launched with Shadow Man 1 and whatnot. So yeah, those looked freaking phenomenal too. So,
yeah. I think I was only getting to see like a picture though. I don't think there was an ash can for that issue.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was at all either. So there might have been. If not, somebody's got some money on it. So
yeah.
So yeah, a little thing on the side. I'm like trying to get rid of all my gold books now. So some stuff working out. So hey, hit me up if y'all need gold books. Yeah.
Man, what's weird is I used to have like a stash of those things, and whenever money had been tight, I sold all my gold books originally that I had because at the time I think Salvation had come out, and I didn't have Unity at the time, and I didn't have Shadow Man 1, the first Shadow Man gold.
That one's hard to get, yeah.
Yeah, and so I sold them all, and then just from going to conventions again, and just people selling them cheap, I have every gold book again. Except I don't have Armorclads. Armorclads has eluded me. So if anybody out there can help me out, I'll pay money. I'm not going to bid.
I guess I got to double check and look through my stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I mix. Sometimes it's just like, oh, great books, and then I just put them in a box sometimes to get them out. And I don't necessarily categorize them like I should sometimes.
Yeah, one shop by me that used to have like a great relationship with Valiant, they seem like they've kind of fallen off. And so they don't ever have this stuff anymore. But then, weirdly enough, a shop that never had it, they seem to talk pretty highly of Danny at Valiant, and they've ended up having gold books there on the shelves to buy. I mean, I've had to pay a little more than, I mean, they're not cover price, but it's helped me get like the Ninja Gold, for instance. I didn't have one, but then they had it for sale, and they even threw in the button for the issue.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, this is great, man. Like,
perfect.
Yeah. I don't have a great swag collection. I wish I did. But I love
I got some swag up there. Cool. Well, we got some swag and whatnot too. The Skeptical's jumping the gun, asking some good Shadow Man questions that we'll get into later. But yeah, put those things.
Oh, let's definitely answer that one later tonight.
And I think it's a great question. And but we'll run into some fun items here as we're going to talk about some pretty fantastic books as far as Archer and Armstrong Forever #3, Armorclads #5, but for some reason I think we missed #4, so we may touch base on it.
If issue 4 had the big armor reveal, like where they all of a sudden had like their own little suits and shit.
No, that was 3. So
was it 3?
We didn't do 4. Yeah.
We don't do these enough, as you can tell.
Yeah. So, but
it's a 4. Whatever the issue of the 4. I'll say right now.
Yeah. We'll touch base with everybody on 4. So, and then but we'll get 5 done too. But before we do that, what's happening?
Huh?
What's happening?
Not much, man.
Oh, this thing.
That's
Josh
right.
didn't fall for the spoiler alert. Gonna interrupt him, but it's okay.
Can we bring Eric back so that we can have that happen a lot?
Oh, dude, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we miss you, Eric.
Yep. So,
come back. Start reading the books again.
Oh, we'll get you back, bud. Come on. But yeah, I think we're in line for some cool books. So that's a spoiler pause. We just gave you a spoiler alert. So, I think Archer or Shadow Man came out this week. So the Book of Shadows, the rest of it, you all should have already been read. So that's on you, but it's a spoiler. So if you don't want the spoil, keep on trucking. I put this, I don't know if in no particular order, maybe there's particular order, but let's start off with looks like the Armorclads #5, written by O'Connor, then Bucoletto, Spuvado, Fernandez, Hi-Fi, and Sharp. So still like some really cool solid covers. I think that it's definitely gets you intrigued with what you see with the covers here. I've always liked this pre-order covers. I think the characters that they've done in the pre-order covers have always looked really good.
Yeah, so this one is kind of like their big all-out fight, and they've got their super mystical special weapon that's some badass weapon that can, do whatever, I guess. It seems like it's not very explained well.
It's like a big laser. But, but for 4, if we didn't cover 4, the Armorclads are at the break of this colony or whatever they want to call it, the Citadel, and the Legionnaires are also going in to fight against the Alphans, I guess is what they call them. And so that's where they're at, and there's this war, and the Armorclads kind of jump in behind the Legionnaires to kind of sneak in, so it makes their infiltrating the Citadel a lot easier. And that's where we're at right now, where they get to meet their buddy Pyrrhus and try to break him out with that whatever that is, that damn gun.
Yeah, and they get some help from like the spider alien type looking things that have been in this series. One thing that I do like about this, I mean, like, I have one negative about all of it, but for the most part, I do like this series. I really like Miguel Sepulveda's art on this. I do think that the last couple issues, I swear we did issue 4. I swear we did. But the last couple issues that I've seen his art on, because he was the art on the last issue that we did review. I think he's got a good style for this. I think he's kind of fit for doing like sci-fi action. And
that's the art like on the page up right there, right?
Yeah. Like I like it. And I think like he gets a lot done on the page. We're looking at probably like 6 to 8 panels on some of them. Some of them are just 4. There's a lot of action. I mean, one thing about this book is it's got a lot of action. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's not a boring book. My only gripe about this book is I just feel like there's not enough personality for any of the characters to really get to know who any of them are. And you're introducing a brand new cast into this book, and we're 5 issues in. It's the last issue. And I just feel like after 5 issues, I don't really know anyone in this book, like I felt like as much as I would have griped a book like, say, Psylords. Okay, like Psylords, you really did kind of get to know those dudes. Nothing happened in that book. It was kind of like the exact opposite of this, where I felt like you got to learn a lot about those characters. It was just kind of a boring book because they didn't do anything for the 9 issues or 8 issues that they were there. This one is like, there's story there, obviously, and it's pretty entertaining, but I just feel like, I just wish I knew a little bit more about this. Yeah. And I don't have a pre-order edition in front of me. I do feel like sometimes those books, the pre-order editions, aren't very helpful. Sometimes they're just like some script stuff, and that's about it. I still like collecting them a lot, but I do feel like with Armorclads, it has been kind of like that extra little buddy to have to read those and kind of piece it together with the issues. Because on one of them, it went through and explained who everybody was and like what their suits were like and things like that. I was like, this is great, but yeah. But this one's not bad, it's a fun story at the very end for anyone following who any of them are.
Cool ending.
Layla takes over the team. She kind of gets handed it to her. And I think like at the very end of this, we should talk about the end of it if you're ready.
Yeah, well, I think the ending, let's say that for a little bit later. But give my 2 cents. Like, there were parts where I felt like some of the panels seemed, very, rushed. But for the most part, it was really good art. And like you were talking about, so much action. Seemed like this book was very like plot and story, like driven very much to like get to point A to point B. And there seemed like there was only very little stopping points within it. And I really, when you think about like a story like this, infiltrating this, like I think of like The Walking Dead, right? That would have taken 4 arcs to get what all happened as far as like a full piece here. Because the character building was also there in those books. Like you were saying, there was very little character and character voice that I really felt was there. Really underlining there should have been more to get the villains there, more to see who the Legionnaires are and why they're where they're at, and kind of more of the battle outside of it just being like this wanting some pure. You want some pure, which is still a horrible name for whatever it is they're mining. But
it's not a very creative name for like this mystical substance that they have to have.
Right. And yeah, it still has some of those vibes of those other series that have came and gone about, people mining certain things in the air and, and then the Armorclads and then kind of going in from the different areas to try to get to the Citadel. Lots of like, pieces I think that were kind of liberated to take in to kind of mash this up. But, it did get action. It didn't draw out. It did keep moving forward. But I do wish that we would have got more character on it. It would make more of an investment. But that is what that is. And and then the ending, the very, very big ending. They break their friend out. They figure out this weapon's like ridiculous, and the Paris can manage it. They save like the governor guy, whatnot, and kind of, but then he dies, I guess. And then they kind of like, it's up to you guys, go figure it out. And this planet of what is it, Zion?
I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, is kind of having some issues, and they unlike Psylords and unlike like Britannia, there is kind of like a direct tie-in. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So what happens? And at first, like when I read the like first part of it, I was like, I don't know anything about this. So there's like this thing called the world voice that kind of erupts out of this planet. You just see like this face that's kind of above the planet, whether it's like supposed to be like literally there or like just something that's like not really there, but like, that no one sees, whatever it is. But you see that and you're like, okay, that's something, I guess, But then the last page of it is Tama. And
Right.
Tama, the Geomancer on Earth, way, way probably far away from all this, picks up on this. So like, kind of like how we always feel like a lot of people are always like, well, what's the tie-in? Like, how do these things tie in? Like, it at least ties in somewhat with whatever Tama's doing. Because Tama, we don't see her later on in another book. And whether that's set during this time, who knows? But yeah, Tama shows up and that's about it. So at least there's like something that like kind of tells you like, oh yeah, I'm reading Valiant. It's Tama the Geomancer.
So one of the things that would be interesting if Tama goes and helps these machines that probably leak oil and put stuff into the world and pollution and nastiness, and Tama's about Earth, and yet she's with these things that are killing the ozone. I don't know. It won't match up to me.
Yeah. I don't think the suits were necessarily XO based. Like Jim was in the chat was like, they seem like they're based on XO. I don't know really. I was hoping they would be more, because when they talk about these like weapons that were like galaxy shattering weapons and only so many people could control them, like the first thing I thought was like possible Shanhara type things that might exist, and then if each one of these Armorclads had something like that,
or just a weapon that's designed to take out the XO.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah. Which that's cool too.
Yeah.
And who knows what direction they're going to be going with XO when it comes out. We've just seen some art. And then at the very, very end of this is just that the Armorclads will return, it says. And then there's actually an ad for the trade paperback right away. And so I don't know how popular any of this stuff was. I don't know how any of it was, but I did think that was kind of interesting that they had an ad for the trade paperback right away at the very end of it, But I hope it was. Yeah. I would like to see the characters come back. I just hope that they just need a little bit more space to breathe. That's all I would say. So, you've introduced them, and if the whole point of it is just to kind of get their introduction out of the way, and then you have more plans for the story or for the characters, that's fine, But it just feels like I don't know who any of them are. Even after 5 issues, it's like, okay, like just a bunch of random dudes in armor and they're kicking some ass, and that's cool. But
right.
But even like their dialogue, I just felt like when it came, like they all kind of sound the same,
Absolutely. And that the story did a lot of like within not necessarily like word bubbles, but caption boxes where it was like, here's the story, you know what I mean? So it was a little bit spoon fed as far as that's concerned. And that's part of why we didn't get a lot of character voices too. So there was something like that was happening within this book. So, I do dig that there is a tie-in. I do dig that they're kind of seeing this other planet, especially with this comic image that's up right now, where you see like their space elevator, which I thought was kind of funny that they even called it the space elevator through this issue. Maybe there's more tie-in to that too, kind of having a space elevator. Because somebody got the idea for a space elevator. What was that in
Imperium?
In Imperium, and so who knows there.
Or was it the Life and Death of Toyo Harada? I can't remember which one it was.
I think it was the beginning of Life and Death Toyo Harada. I think it was Life and Death Toyo Harada. But ultimately, like I felt like art was fair. Story, like I said, it did a lot of just telling you what was going on. Didn't get much character, but it moved really quick. But I'm going to be like overall part of this story. I think I'm going to be sitting right at like a 3.25, a 3.5. Yeah.
I'm probably just at like a 3.5 with it, And one thing I do want to point out, like I do think that like JJ O'Connell and Brian Buccellato, the two people that wrote this book, I thought they did a good job, and I do hope that they come back. If there is going to be more Armorines or Armorclads, sorry about that. It's easy to mix up those two. I feel like if that's the case, like if they are going to bring them back, like I hope those creators come back to do it. And Miguel Sepulveda, I thought his art looked good.
Who did the art in the first issue?
It was Manuel Garcia.
Yeah, the art definitely went down a little bit. I liked Manuel Garcia's art a lot in the first issue or two. And then yeah, not that this art is bad, but I did like it a little bit more in the first couple issues.
Oh yeah.
Well, we got another book coming up next.
Moving
forward, onwards and upwards. And this time we got our lovable duos. the good old buddy Archer and Armstrong in their book Forever, number 3. As they're on their search for the golden apples, they run across a new character who was first appearance slightly was in the very end of Archer and Armstrong number 2, and full appearance in number 3 here. Was what was the name?
Frigg.
Frigg likes to talk in third person.
And, Frigg, I didn't realize, I guess it's female, because at first I was like, oh, it's a big dude just beating him up, like a big male creature. I just assumed that. But then, like, when I looked at it the same time, I was like, Frigg is obviously wearing, like, some female clothing, things to cover up the unmentionables in the front. And I didn't realize that until something it shows later, like when they go through Frigg's story.
Yep.
And there's, like, she went to bed with some dudes, and I was like, wait. Isn't Frigg a dude? Like, that's weird. Not like in a bad way. Not bad. But it's like,
that's monkey fun.
Because if you know what, if you were just like, if you met Frigg, you would probably just bone it, I guess,
Well, Frigg, they're up in Norway, right? So I guess
gotta keep warm.
Harry's keeping warm, getting that thing going. And Frigg was kind of from a different dimension, went through portals and went to the far away, and is kicking Archer and Armstrong's ass. And there's another portal, and Archer goes down to the far away, which I thought was a cool piece. And they ended up finding the portal to get more of the portal back, and they're going through crap. And then comes the teeth guy. They fight the teeth guy.
What's his name? Is it Caw or something like that?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember. There was no mention of him name-wise, but yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't really popped up too much. And then his thing is like he eats things to get abilities, and I don't know if it's like a special thing he's made or if it's like meat from like people, and maybe those people had those abilities because he wants to eat Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking at that stuff, I was like, that's interesting, and it's kind of cool to finally have that guy finally kind of rear his head in the book, not other than just be like there in the shadows. Or
you mentioned that he was going to try to eat Armstrong, but I thought his purpose was to bring Armstrong back to whoever let him out. And I thought that was kind of a weird piece where it's like, oh, they're going to eat Armstrong, but like, out so that person could obtain Armstrong. And so that was kind of a little bit of a little weird tie in there that was there. So.
Yeah. One thing about this issue, this one had breakdowns by Phil Hester, who's been around for like a long time. And I don't have another issue in front of me of this book to see how different the things were. But I kept trying to look for something because I do like his art. And I think Phil Hester's just a really talented creator. And so I was like, that's kind of neat to have him kind of playing around in the Valiant universe.
Yes, definitely. And then I guess I didn't mention the art on this. I went to the wrong one, but not Colin Bunn. That's the next book we're going to talk about.
It's still Marcio Fiorito on the pencils and inks.
Yep, Fiorito, Alex Gomares on inks, or colors. I'm sorry, Hassan Ostami Alu on the letters. So, I think that this book, this issue was basically 2 fight scenes and a transition to the far away, introducing to Frigg and getting a fight with Claw, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
and,
it was an all right issue, but I think like the most interesting things to me about it was kind of like Frigg's story.
Yeah.
I think like I just feel like with Archer and Armstrong, with the way that these stories are set up, you can do a character like this and you're like, okay, that's all right. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like there's nothing like too outlandish that you couldn't do, just because like this and Quantum and Woody always have such weird supporting casts, and they usually only survive for like that series. So like at first I was like, what the hell's Frigg? And then I was like, it works.
Yeah, Frigg definitely seemed like a fairy tale type creature, troll, whatnot, what they wanted to call Frigg in the beginning. And
Frigg doesn't necessarily refer to herself as a troll. She just said that people would call her that or something like that.
Yeah, I do think I remember Archer and Armstrong or one of them called her troll.
Yeah.
In it. But Yeah, I think it is what you get with an Archer and Armstrong story, right? A little slapstick, a little humor,
Yeah.
far out tale, and some action, some fighting going on, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like that was kind of the gist of the story, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this one impressed me as much as some of the previous issues. I mean, it's still a good issue by Steve Fox, but I just think it's just that spot in the middle, where sometimes it's just like you got to transition to what's going to happen with the storytelling. So you kind of take up some space with some things. It's all right. It was a good issue, not a great issue, but it was still a fun issue.
Yep, enters a new character. Hopefully, something happens with that. And we don't get any like throwaway characters like Davy the Mackerel or anything like that. So Gub Gub. So hopefully it's some characters that we could have within the supporting cast.
Yeah.
I think overall, I think I'm another time where I'm at like a 3.25 on this one as well. It was a quick in and out story. Like you got Frigg's quick little backstory, and then you got to see a couple fight scenes. So,
yeah, I'm definitely a little bit lower than I am with Armorclads. I would go about 3 on this one, and I think really, it's kind of like the same thing with some of these books, where I just feel like the third issue, if it's a 3 or 4 or 3 or 5, this is the issue where it's just like a lot of setup. Or like we're getting ready to end it. So here's like how we're gonna start putting those pieces together, and it's all right. But I always feel like some of these issues just aren't as exciting, aren't as fun. Like the second to last issue of the last Shadow Man series is like, I think, like a prime example where it's just like you're just putting the pieces in place, but you're not activating those pieces once you get them there yet. You're going to save all that for like the last issue. But it's all right. It's still a fun issue.
Yeah, still fun. Still Archer and Armstrong. And you still get, have those guys on the shelf. And, I feel like it's going to be a promising story, hopefully, when you get a little bit more of this collector or whatnot. And we kind of figure out what's going on with Armstrong's ear and how he's not healing, which is a big change for him. So, yeah. And finally, a book that we've been waiting for, or we've asked for, right? To have our Dark Unity kind of come to life.
Yeah, the Unity Dark book that we've always been like, what if we got this, It's here. Book of Shadows.
The Book of Shadows. Book of Shadows.
So
Cullen Bunn, Vicente Cifuentes, Nick Filardi, and Dave Sharp. And
the A cover is Raphael Albuquerque. I thought it was a good cover. I like all the covers on this. The Adam Gorham one is awesome. With like the tarot cards. I think it's great.
Yeah, there's some.
Where was that tie-in? Where was that like bit of swag? Like 5 or 6 like tarot cards. That would have been awesome.
That would have been pretty cool swag for this one. I would have been down for that.
And definitely that pre-order edition cover is awesome.
Is that Kelly Jones? Oh, yeah, Young Jones, right?
Kelly Jones back in the day from Batman and Spectre, a lot of cool DC books. I was a big fan.
At a quick look, I thought it was Bob Hall.
Huh?
At a quick look, I thought it was Hall for a second. I was like, "That's cool," but nope.
Oh no, I didn't even know that Kelly Jones was still around. I met him a couple years ago, and he was really nice, but I haven't seen him do anything new. So I was like, I didn't know if he kind of moved out of the industry or what. But awesome to see him working at Valiant.
Awesome to see him working Valiant. So I mean, this brings out a little bit more, trying to figure out who Persephone really is, who was the basically the cloned creature created by the Dead Side in the last arc of Shadow Man with Cullen Bunn, and so Persephone's now its own person, her own person. One of the things that just quick like design things, I hated the font in the first part of this book. It was so hard to read the font digitally. It was a bad choice of font.
Like in the caption boxes on the first page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There were some of these words where just like the font was really awkward and just kind of did not work all that well for me. But it was Yeah, werewolves are attacking this little town of Vernon.
Well, are they
Colvin,
werewolves or
Illinois.
just regular like
Or
messed up?
wolves? Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they're talking and they're standing upright, so it's almost a werewolf to me.
Yeah.
Wolf, I think, would be on all fours.
It was kind of a grisly scene for like a Valiant book too. I mean, there was just like people like with chunks of their heads missing, and there's like pools of blood, and people just look like they're getting eaten. You know, like it was like what I was looking at is like I'm glad that they're going like more horror with stuff in the Shadow Man corner of the Valiant universe, but I was like, damn, like there's a whole mess of people just getting ruined.
Yeah, there was pretty, like this looks good. And I think they really try to push hard on Persephone, right? Like try to give her some character and have her show, her empathy and try to show some humanity from her. I think it was it's an important piece to it. So I thought that was kind of nice that they did that.
Yeah, like when the last Shadow Man run ended, I just thought she kind of came off so goofy at the end when she became Persephone and was no longer Darkseid. And I just thought like, oh man, like I don't know how I'm gonna feel about her when she comes in here because like she just has like this really weird, like goofy, like kind of like a bubbly expression I thought at the end of that book. But here she did kind of play a little bit more normal. So I was really thankful that she had what I would assume would just be like a normal personality for this kind of situation. And maybe the time between the end of Shadow Man and this is hopefully like a little bit.
Yeah. And she lashed out like a son of a gun too, but one of the weird things too, though, that, I guess design wise a little bit is how they have like when these characters get reintroduced in the book here, they give you this Shadow Man, Jack Boniface, bound to the Shadow Loa, Persephone, a blight, once part of the dead side. But yet on the very first page, they open up and they give you those exact same things. So I don't think they quite needed it just yet in the first issue to introduce these characters when you're going to do that when they show up on the page. I thought that was a weird little editorial choice, but I guess you get to get it twice. You get to hear who it is twice. But
yeah, well, I think sometimes when it comes to these event books, where you're getting a bunch of the characters thrown in and you might possibly draw in some new readers. Maybe they're coming from those some of the exclusive covers at some shop or something like that. I feel like it's not a bad thing to necessarily like maybe like within the parameters of the story be like Persephone, Shadow Man. Because I also think also like at the same time, like one thing we complained about was like the bad guy in Archer and Armstrong. Like there's no reference on who that is. He just shows up and
that's true.
Starts eating jerky and beating people up, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? And here it's like I kind of get like them doing that. Like it's a little bit more old school like in the approach, but I like it,
No, I like it. I just figured one or the other though.
Yeah.
At the front or when when they come in. It would have been nice having it the Archer, would have remembered his name when he came back out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get to see them Shadow Man kind of go at it. He does something really cool that I thought was kind of cool is when the scythe turned into the Ravens. I thought that was kind of a cool piece. I did dig that. When he's fighting these werewolves who basically tell him about the Dark Feast and the Book of Shadows was now introduced. And then this image here in the top right corner with Persephone getting her black eyes with the red, kind of that look. And then she just kind of like goes for death on these werewolves to kind of take care of the few that are there and send them off to the dead side. And it's kind of heartbroken when this little girl gets scared at her.
Oh yeah, I thought that was a great touch too, where it was just like it doesn't just like save the day, like how many times have you read like in a comic book where like some shit goes down and there's like one or two people who survive or something like that. They're just like, oh, thank you, like you saved me. Like everybody knows butchered, So like I thought like at least here it's like I don't know how much of like Earth's population in that universe even knows of the existence of Shadow Man.
Right.
Like Exo Manowar, they probably know about. Like he seemed like he was a lot more of a public hero or faith. Shadow Man, probably not. Like those are probably things that people don't even want to know about. Let alone a guy that's fighting them.
But all of a sudden you hit, oh hey, how are you? It's good to see you with Punk Mambo and somebody that people would know, Dr. Mirage, because she's a reality TV show character. So, and it's kind of funny, like, oh, weird meeting you here. It did kind of seem like they got the band back together really quickly in a weird way.
I did think that too. I sometimes can't. I mean, I guess it's all just magic, like there's magic themselves there, but like you don't see like them working on anything that gets them there. You know, like I feel like at least like with the stuff like with Archer Armstrong, there's always a portal. There's always something. Sometimes it's just like, hey, here we are. Let's beat up some ghouls or something, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, they're fighting off some weird stuff coming happen. And basically, Punk Mambo doesn't really want much to do with Persephone and believes that Persephone is, destined to be evil pretty much.
Yeah.
Or is just Shadow Man's little, sidekick, puppet to do whatever Shadow Man wants. And you can see that there potentially could be some strife there with having that kind of piece that was kind of foreshadowed and thrown in this first issue. But the artist did really good about kind of throwing that look that Persephone does when that's mentioned. So I did like that. There was good storytelling and good art and good script there that matched really well to kind of give you these kind of pieces that were, it wasn't said that Persephone was upset about it, but the art did a good job of kind of showing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that. That's kind of what I feel with good storytelling, good art, good comic, how good comics work is when it falls together in that manner.
Yeah, and speaking of the art, like I thought there was a couple of great pages in here. Like obviously, like it's a little bit more vicious, a little bit more brutal than some of the books that we look at, from Valiant. But like the pages were like Shadow Man's getting like eaten on by one of these like giant wolves, and then like Persephone's doing some kind of like contacting the the dead side, and there's like things talking back at them from that other side, and then the right before like the Punk Mambo reveal. I just thought like some of those pages were just really cool. There's cool visuals on there, And I think sometimes I don't know like what the rules of the dead side are as far as like the visuals go, because I feel like sometimes you never see a lot of the same stuff twice. And so many people interact with it in the Valiant universe. We've had Ninjak and Eternal Warrior on an adventure there. Obviously Shadow Man, Punk Mambo, Dr. Mirage. So sometimes it's just like, it's always so dark and dreary, and obviously that sets the tone for the book. But I really like the fact that they put some color to what was happening with the dark side. It just makes it kind of elevated it a little bit for me.
Yeah, and like I know exactly the scene you're talking about when the dead side creatures kind of come out and go after the wolves, and it like reminded you to a degree of like to me like a Alex Gray painting coming to life and eating something with all the eyeballs and mouths and whatnot. I mean, I don't know, it just looked really cool. It had that kind of feel to it to me in the sky, like if that stuff was there. But yeah, I totally agree that it had some really cool connections there. And I do like that, we hear that the Dr. Mirage and Punk Mambo had brought in some muscle. And so we know that Eternal Warrior's kind of in the background kind of happening. And then we get to meet a villain that Eternal Warrior's kind of taken care of in the past before too.
Yeah, and that was something that I thought was kind of interesting with the way that they set that part up, because it's almost like two different stories. You get what happens in that town in Illinois, and then you get what's happening in like the dark side with Galad, and he's fighting these wolves, and then Exarch Thane rears his head. And I thought that the fact that they knew each other was like a cool take, because I mean, like, how often is it that like someone shows up and it's just always like, we don't know who this guy is, like we've never met him before. And
yeah.
Galad has had so many adventures. If you were to like sit there and make a book of just things he's probably done and weird creatures that he's come across and beings that are super powerful, there's probably lots of them, like it'd have to be for a guy who's immortal.
Did you catch the editor error there on that image?
No, what was it?
It was Galad tells him, I thought you dead by my hand. I thought you dead by my hand.
Well, I mean,
died by my hand.
Maybe he's going a little more classical English, I mean,
that might be the case. Dead
Yeah.
by the hand of mine, that is mine that thee killed you.
And he's got an interesting look. There's a cover coming up. I think it's like issue 3, one of the like B covers. He looks badass, and it looks like something off like a death metal cover or something like that.
He kind of reminds me of Death from East of West a little bit, but
yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I imagine it would be cool to me, like if, like my own, like what happens after this series is done. Like, I always just feel like sometimes like villains get introduced and then they're just dead. There's
Right.
there's only so few people like Master Dark who can come back or Toyo Harada who can come back. So I'm just like, they need good bad guys in the dead side.
Right.
So maybe like we haven't really seen much of this guy yet, other than the fact that he does kind of kick Galad's ass. And then boom, everybody pops up, and there's a good last page where it's just him getting ready to face down with all of our heroes, and he's holding what looks like the Book of Shadows.
Yep.
I'm assuming that's what it is. So, and then there's a preview, but I didn't look at it just because I don't want to know yet. But
yeah, I didn't read the previews either, but it's kind of cool how Shadow Man comes and shows his scythe to save Glad's temporary life at the moment.
Yeah,
and the band is together that quick. I think that's probably the only thing that was seemed weird is just how quick it was to get the group together. Yeah. And sometimes that's my favorite part about a group book is like let's get together, let's figure this out, and yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
But roughly that was the Shadow Man book itself was kind of that too.
Yeah. I thought this was a pretty strong issue. It's kind of hard for me to grade this one though. I mean, like there's a part of me where I hate doing like the 2.5s so much with my score 2.575. So I'm like, oh, is it like a 4-star book? Is it like a 4.5-star book? And that's kind of where I'm like, oh, it's that place in the middle of that, But it's good. It's really fun, And I mean, like, I do feel like, in a way, like it's one of those things that I've kind of been like, as a fan, like, oh, why can't we have a Unity Dark book? We've had these discussions so much offline. Mm-hmm. I feel like you and I and Eric and a couple other people. And so, like, to me, it's like, this is cool to see, like, something that you just think, like, oh, man, what if they did that? And then they did it, Like, to me, it's like, I love seeing these characters, minus Persephone, but only because, like, I do feel like they did it a lot better than what I thought they would have. But there's a part of me where I'm like, why couldn't it have just been Alyssa? Like, I just feel like something with that kind of relationship just needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. Like, the Betters and Alyssa, like they do so much, like in the Shadow Man book when we get one, but then like they're just like they're like bad background characters almost, where they don't get enough even background time. But I don't know, man. Like I thought this was pretty good, and the art's great. Like especially like the beginning of the book with some of those like brutal pages of people just getting like devoured by wolves and kind of the aftermath of it. Like this was like a good book just to look at. So
yeah, it was a fun book for sure, and it was a fun read. With all of it, and who knows where it's going to take you. That's kind of the weird spot, right? I think the only foreshadowing I saw was that strife that could happen between Persephone and Shadow Man about kind of being Shadow Man's kind of weapon or toy type of thing. But the rest of it's kind of wide open.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about like where this book is after one issue, like they've already met that what we think is the main bad guy. He's there. I don't think they're going to just fight him in that spot for 4 issues, So if they did, that would be kind of weird, like some weird pacing. But yeah, I'm stoked on Book of Shadows.
I am too. Did you end up scoring it? What'd you end up saying?
I said it's just like between like a 4 and a 4 and 5, a 4.5.
So 4.25. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm at too. Like you say, I don't know if I can necessarily justify a 4.5, but it is better than a 4.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where you put it where you want in between there. Usually you can split the difference. And yeah, like it's the beginning. It's a first book. It's what Valiant kind of does when they start off a book really good. And hopefully they don't rush it. Hopefully there's not the kind of middle issues where it's just, I want character building. I want story building. I want, things that actually change and adjust the story and get and deepen the characters. I think Cullen Bunn's done pretty good with that for the most of the books, outside of one, when he's been writing with Valiant. And so hopefully we kind of get that with more of Shadow Man. I think he's got a huge talent to tell these dark, twisted, darker stories that are around this, magic and dark stuff and evil, and that's kind of his bread and butter, and I think it's in the right spot for him. So I do think we're going to get that. I just, I hope we continue with that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing. Like, he has just been awesome with this corner of the Valiant universe. And I mean, I think we're both on the same page. Like, we just didn't really dig Roku.
Right.
And Roku would actually fit kind of well in this. But I also thought he made her like maybe too overpowered. Because I mean, like, she's really powerful, and Ninjak had some great stories against her, but like I think like reading that series, like, she was so powerful, and yet everyone around her was not very exciting to read about. Like,
right.
Again, like maybe like the worst, some of the worst characters of the Valiant universe.
Yeah.
That the Master of Blades, or whatever his name was, the Minister, whatever he was. He is in like the bucket of like the bad villains.
They had like a bullseye-ish type character, right, with the knife guy. I don't think anybody should ever like Bullseye, but that's okay. Ultimately, like, it was good to get this story. It's good to get this team up. It's good to have, 4. Persephone's not really one of them, but 4. Eternal Warrior, Shadow Man, Dr. Mirage, Punk Mambo. All in a book, all on the shelf. Like this works to get some characters, right? And it's good to get. We have 2 of the Anipadas on the shelf right now, which is amazing. We went from 0 for a long, long time, so I'm happy that we got Glad and we got Armstrong, both gracing the pages of some Valiant books currently. So that's cool.
Yeah. So let's get to one of the questions, and I want to answer Jim's question too. Just comment on it at least. But let's talk about the one that was brought up earlier about Shadow. If we think that Shadow Man is becoming like the John Constantine, and I don't think he is. I totally feel like, at least originally, I felt like that's what Punk Mambo was. Like when Peter Milligan brought her in, I was like, he's just writing he's just writing John Constantine. But he made her like, he gave her like a really cool look, and he wrote Hellblazer for like about 40 issues or so. And I don't know if now I think that. I mean, I do think that she's kind of been able to be distanced a little bit, because I think the thing about John, and I have every issue of Constantine, of Hellblazer, even the really shitty New 52 Rebirth. Don't ever read him. I hate him so much in the DC universe. Makes me so mad. But one of my favorite DC characters, and I always think like the thing that was always great about him was that like so much of what he did had such a negative effect on everything in his life. Like he could save the day, but there was a cost to everything. And he just was such a bastard too about like not really caring about what happens. Like he didn't really care about the chips falling as they would, And I do think that like Punk Mambo's not done that way. She does a lot more magic stuff. Like she fights a lot more with magic. John would just be like, well, we can put this demon down by writing something on the floor. Or I just feel like sometimes like I do feel like she might have started that way, but she's gotten past that. And I don't think Shadow Man's anywhere near it, personally.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I do think that, she really did start off as Constantine. I definitely can get how the thought of that is still there, right? I definitely can see how that can be brought together, even currently.
One thing that I think modern comics do really bad is that modern comics will sit here and say, you know what, we're going to introduce someone who deals in like the dark side of magic. Okay, they're always British,
right?
Always.
Pretty much, right?
Always. And you know what? I buy all those books because again, like I hate what they've done with John Constantine, and so I'm always like, who can you give me that can make me feel that way? So like if you do a magic book, and like there's dark, sinister things going around, and you got like a guy who's gonna deal with it or a woman who's gonna deal with it, I buy those books, and they generally are just like another British person, and I think like, gosh, you can't do anything else. Like, I get that you don't want to do Doctor Strange. But you can do something different than Doctor Strange and John Constantine. Like that, those don't have to be.
I don't know. Is it that somebody can work in the dark arts and whatnot like that, and they have to be British because, like, if they were anything else that people would associate them with evil.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think like Punk Mambo deals a lot more in like voodoo magic, and she's got the Loa. And things like that. And John, I mean, like the only thing that was really beyond magic was like he had like demon blood,
right?
You know, and I guess like he can't go to hell. So, but
yeah, I think that's a great question though. But
yeah, the other comment that was brought up, and thanks to Skeptical for asking that question. No, it was Jim, wasn't it? Oh no, it was Skeptical who brought that one
Skeptical,
up.
Yeah.
Jim Garcia asked if we had seen the EXO art from.
What I'm searching for here
from Liam. Yeah, and like the art looks amazing on what's going to happen with EXO Manowar. I think my only question would be like the villain looks a little kind of like odd to me, but like I get like a weird H.R. Geiger vibe from his art, like especially from the villain, that I'm kind of like, hell yeah, like I really do dig it. I think it's going to be, I mean, I don't know anything about what the story is going to be like, but I think art-wise that book is going to rock.
Oh, absolutely. Liam Sharp on it too. Oh, god damn. That's going to be great. You know, and I was looking for that art, and this kind of throws it off subject. But I don't know if you had to read it or you can read it, or hopefully Valiant can pull this out with that trade paperback they talked about. But that prologue Armorclads that they came out with the NFT, you know, which really pisses me off that they put it out like that. But I would like to read that. I don't know if it gave them under that piece there. But yes, sorry, I digress. But I'm pumped up for EXO Manowar. This is probably. You know, I was pumped up for Book of Shadows, really excited for it. And I really want to see what Bloodshot has too with this Unleashed. But EXO's got me really excited to see what we can get from EXO. I hope we just gloss over what happened in the last EXO, and we just kind of go to this EXO that's kind of changed it up. And it just, everything I've seen from it just looks badass.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Liam Sharp is. I just feel like if people don't know his art, if they're not familiar, they're going to get a really great introduction to him. And I hope they like him because I think his art's awesome. You know, I like the detail.
Yep, and it's perfect fit. I feel like it's perfect fit with this. You know, the sci-fi type story of EXO. It's going to be pretty badass.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about all I had for the questions. If anyone else has anything real quick, then
yeah. If anybody has any more questions, please raise your hand. The teacher will call you. But dude, it's been pretty pumped up. In 2 or 3 weeks, I got Emerald City Comic Con coming, and then 2 or 3 weeks after that, be meeting up with you at Rose City Comic Con.
That's right, Rose I'm excited.
Yeah. That one's one of my favorites. That is one of my favorites.
I checked their website like every week, and they've been adding some names, but for a while there, I was like, oh my god, like who are any of these people? Like, I feel like I'm a little bit versed in like who's who of the comic book industry, but now it's like, okay, there's some people like I'm familiar with. I'm glad, but I'm also like I'm actually really excited to give Portland a second chance because I went there once with my wife, and neither of us loved it. So I'm like, okay, like. Round 2, we're gonna do this again. I'm not leaving unless I gotta have fun there. I gotta have fun. I haven't been to a convention for like 3 years, or it feels like, since before COVID, like a year before COVID. And man, I need it.
It will be fun. It will be fun. I think there'll be some fun things to do. You know, you can see Billy D. Williams. You know, so I think you'll have some fun times. That's a fun Comic-Con to come to. Come see both of us there. We'll both be there, hang out. And,
I would love to like talk to anyone if anyone listens to this or watching afterwards, if you like Valiant and you listen to us, definitely come up and talk to us. Like I remember, I want to say the year that I met you at Emerald City, like I got to talk to, like, it was like a weird thing where people were just like, we listen to the show. And I got to meet I met like a ton of people, and it was really weird, like it just was not what I was expecting. So definitely come out and talk to us if you're there.
For sure. I mean, I don't even think I knew about the show when I met you there.
Yeah.
But that's how it works. But I was like, wait, there's a podcast for Valiant?
I always feel like the fact that like I met you at that show, and then here's where we're at now.
Yeah.
And you were just a guy who was like, hey, no, you did know because you asked me for advice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You were like, hey, if I want to do a podcast,
dude, just do it. I was like, all right. And
I feel like that's the best advice. If you ever want to do anything, don't wait. Just make it happen. Especially like nowadays. Like, you know what? Like the first Get Valiants were done like on phones. Like,
on those phones.
They're not great episodes, but you know what? If you can make something that someone would listen to.
Tin cans.
Yeah, who cares? Use your phone. Get on the computer. I mean, I'm on like a crappy Chromebook right now.
Oh.
It's not that bad. I use this thing for school. It works pretty good, but
get out and do stuff. Get out and do it, and eventually, like, you'll get better at it. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we're still trying to, but we're trying.
At some point.
At some point, we'll get there. Well, dude, I've had a lot of fun, and it's been a good time. I know we haven't done this a lot as much as we should, but maybe we'll get some in a couple weeks when we get a couple new books in again. And I don't even know. Let me look at Valiant's calendar and get an idea of what's coming for y'all down the real way here. So, and we're about to be in August. So, Book of Shadows was this week. August 10th, Archer and Armstrong number 4. August 24th, the Book of Shadow number 2. And then nothing new until September 14th. So we'll probably be in that end of August, early September. We'll do an episode of those two. And then probably in September, we'll cover up with Archer and Armstrong number 5, Bloodshot Unleashed, and the Book of Shadows number 3. Yep. So
maybe we can do something live together too,
it'd be fun.
Yeah. Part of for me, like, I would love to get back to doing interviews. Like I used to, not even just with this, but like, I used to write a little bit. So like, I'm just like, it's been like 3 years since I've talked to anyone about a comic book that they worked on. So hopefully we can get back to doing some stuff like that with the podcast, even if it's just something that we just record the audio of. But like,
absolutely,
I was going to actually tell you, if you want help with it, like I have in the past, I'd help you do that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we can get something rolling, and then we can do maybe some live for sure. That shouldn't be too hard. I did live in the freaking casino in Vegas that time when we met Colin Bunn and you weren't there. So we could probably do something like that. Maybe even on the show, on the floor over there, or maybe a couple times we can do it. Some couple times just to say what's up. So be on the lookout for that coming. What's that? Early September. So that should work when we're there rocking and rolling. So but yeah, everybody, thanks for jumping on. There's been a bunch of you on. Appreciate it. Jim, Handy Brew, Skeptical, a number. Fox B Hero,
Kingman,
Hungry,
Jim Garcia. Thank you guys. I know Friday nights are sometimes hard, but we really appreciate you guys joining us.
Awesome. Well, thank you all, and we will see you again on another day, another time. Bye.